basketball convo or
Yes,
coaching or playing days, a little
etc.
bit of both?
Everything, a little bit of both.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. Alongside me for episode number 88. Damn, close to 100. Who would have thought?
Right.
Is former NBA star and European star, also now a coach, Keith Jennings, nicknamed Mr. IC. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
By the way, we are on YouTube and available next day on all podcasting apps. So once you have that out, people your follows can go see. So
Gotcha.
let's hop right to it. I want to talk a little current though before we get into your career
Mm-hmm.
because I saw you played for Golden State 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The current Golden State Warriors. Do you think? Because the talk is that Curry can't do anything without KD. Can you say that he can win a championship without him, or because a lot of people are saying he can't win the big one without KD? What's your take on that?
I mean, KD joined Steph, right? So I would say I think Steph they had won the championship before KD had joined them. So I would say he did it before. He could possibly do it again, but will he do it again? I don't know. That's gonna be tough, man. I think the NBA right now is in great hands, man. You got several teams I think that can compete to win a championship. So it's gonna be interesting to see. But I think I think Steph could win another championship without KD.
What about Steve Kerr? Do you think he's the right fit for that team?
I mean, I think just from a coach's standpoint, when you got the best players, I think, your job becomes somewhat easier to do. So as long as he continues to have Steph, Clay, Draymond, and those young fellas that they have, I think Coach Kerr, I don't think his job would be in any type of dire need to make a change when you've won championships with that guy. So, that's always interesting about you go to the coach to find out, if he can do the job. And like I said, a lot of times if you got really good players, you should be able to coach them good enough if you got experiences in the game of basketball.
Right, it's like it's. I know in the '90s when I watched it, grew up with it, it was tough even then to win titles. I
Yeah.
mean, but I would have to say nowadays it's kind of tougher because you got all these super teams. Back in the '90s when I was watching it, you didn't really have super teams. I mean, do you like the idea of that? I mean, we haven't seen the super teams before. Well, we did in the '80s when I wasn't even around, but we did have them in the '80s.
I
And
mean, you know what? Is I don't really know if super team is the correct word for these new groups. I think the way people have put an emphasis on winning the NBA title is saying if you don't win the NBA title, you're not big. It don't count for you, and that's sad for great basketball players to think that their legacy could be tainted, all because someone says if you don't win an NBA title, you're not validated. And I think that's what causes some of these great players to join with each other. And like I said, I just think it's really weird that okay, if you can get drafted and be on the same team, they say that's okay. But if I want to leave my situation and can be a free agent and go wherever I want, and I choose to do that, now they try to make it seem like, well, you had to join somebody to do it. I don't get that. I mean, it's you winning or you're losing. That's you either gonna win the NBA championship or you're not. I played in the NBA for 4 years and I didn't win an NBA championship. Does that make me think that I'm a bad basketball player? No, because I still worked hard. I still competed. I still tried to reach that type of goal. So I just think I think a lot of times these so-called etiquettes of the game, things you shouldn't do, or certain rules. I just think that's just we putting too much on one person's opinion, and that opinion might not agree with what you think, and they can't force it on us. So I hope it changes in some at some point.
Now, where were you, and where were you playing for when I thought this damaged the game, and even Ron Artest now, what's his, I forget his name,
Yeah,
Data
meta
World
world
Peace,
peace, or
yeah.
yeah, huh?
Even though he's apologized for it, and so has the other guy that was involved in it, he's apologized for it. I think it kind of still ruined the game. Because I remember that day in I believe it was '04. I remember it, and it was like November. Pistons, Pistons, and the Pacers,
Yeah.
and that whole brawl thing. Like I saw that on Sports Center after it happened. I was like, oh man, this definitely has to hurt the game. What was your take on that, and where were you when that happened?
You know what? I think at in '04 I was back coaching a private school team when all of that happened, and like I said, that's probably one of the more unfortunate situations in basketball. Anytime a player goes into the stands, or anytime a fan feels like they can say and threaten another human being, I just think you're losing control of the situation. You know, we're here to play basketball. You're there to watch basketball. I think when you let it get out of control in that standpoint, it's definitely not good for the game. And I'm just glad that it hasn't happened more than that. I mean, uh, basketball can be an intimidating sport. I don't think a lot of people look at it that way, but you got some big guys that, if they can't move as well as other people, they got to try to gain an advantage in other ways. And, you see it in hockey. You see these big guys, they're the bullies. They knock you down. They make you afraid to maybe try to score the puck. I mean, in basketball, it's the same way. You got these big guys, you got small guys like me that's trying to get around them, and maybe knocking me down is a way of trying to scare me from doing what I need to do. But the type of player I was, and like you said, back in the '80s and '90s, there was no backing down, so you just kind of kept having to be aggressive. So yeah, I don't encourage any type of fighting in any type of sports, but it seems like some sports they allow it in more than others. In basketball, you get in a fight, you could be suspended the rest of the season.
Yeah,
Kicked out of the game. I mean, in hockey, what you go to the penalty box for a few minutes, you can come back in and get back in the play of the game. I just think it's really weird how some sports intimidation is allowed, but in some sports they say it's not professional.
yeah, I agree with you. So I know we've seen some issues in recent years. I'm dating back the last 2 3 years of hecklers in the crowd, and that's being close to and even spitting, and that's close to
Yeah,
where the fans are always close. I think the simple solution, I know the NBA don't want to do it because it loses out on money for them, but I think it has to happen. The fans are way too close to the game. I know you've been through that for years, having that for years. Don't you agree with me? That kind of has to change. I
I
mean, they
mean,
cannot be that close to the action.
I agree. I mean, I like you said. I mean, anytime you watch the game, I mean, you can look and you can see cameramen like right near the out of bounds line. You got cheerleaders, and then you
Yeah,
got fans right behind them that can trust me, Byron. I didn't play in some hostile environments, and I'm the little guy. The little guy. I was always like the fan favorite,
I'm
but
as little as you are. I'm an inch shorter than you.
right, I can remember we played UNC Charlotte my senior year at East Tennessee State, and it was a midnight game. One of the first times they started playing the midnight games, getting
Yeah,
ready for March Madness. And so
yeah,
I'm excited to go. We go into the building, and actually we played in a different place. They call it the Mine Shaft, where their record was like they beat a lot of people in there. So
right.
I remember walking in just to go shoot before the game. ESPN's all over the building. It is packed in this little gym when I walk in. And I guess, as soon as they notice me, everybody in unison is yelling, Mr. Sucks, Mr. Sucks. And I'm like, wow, that's I understand what fans can do to try to get under your skin, but I just thought that was just totally not called for. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's other things you can say to me, but I just think sometimes fans they just take it to the extreme, which I think they probably. I mean, that's what they do. They try to get you out of your game to maybe help their team win. So in a way, I can respect it, but I just don't know what you can do to that because you got families, you got your family in the gym and they hear you. I mean, I can hear people saying stuff about me. My dad is like, "You better not say nothing about my son." And, it can just get really crazy, and that's just unfortunate. I can't tell a fan how to cheer or who to cheer for, but like I said, in this world, it would be nice if it could be I guess, somewhat respectful, as far as cheering for your team and not disrespecting the opponents because all we doing is trying to play basketball and win the game just like you guys are doing.
So I gotta ask you, before we get into the beginning of your career, which, like you said, you brought it up already, East Tennessee. I'm going to ask you about that as well. Um, I gotta ask you because you played in the era with Michael Jordan, so you played in that era and against
Mm-hmm.
him. The comparison, I have to ask because everybody's asking it today. I don't know why, but it is. You already know where I'm getting at.
Right.
LeBron and MJ. I
I
mean,
mean,
you played against him and you saw him play, and you've also I know you've seen LeBron play because I know you still watch the game.
mm-hmm.
How do we end this debate of who's the goat of all time? How do we end this? Because I think it's stupid. It depends on the era.
Yeah.
How
I
do we
mean,
end this stupid
I don't.
debate?
You know what, Byron? I don't think you will ever end it because it's all opinionated. You know what I'm saying? There's the everything that you're talking about with Michael Jordan and with LeBron James. I mean, it's all unless you just go by the straight numbers of what they've scored, their rebounds, their block shots. I mean, their MVPs. I mean, unless you're just going on stats, everything else is opinionated. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for the longest, I said Michael Jordan to me was like the best basketball player I've ever seen play, ever been on the court with. But I'm the type of player that likes a complete basketball player. I'm not saying Michael wasn't complete, but LeBron is going to be probably top in scoring. He's going to be mentioned when it comes to rebounding. He's going to be mentioned when it comes to assists. He's going to be. I mean, he's a stat stuffer. I mean, Mike was usually mentioned for scoring titles, defensive prowess, and winning championships. You didn't hear too much about assists, rebounds, triple doubles. You didn't hear that too much about Mike, but you did hear winning along with Mike a lot. With LeBron, you hear winning too, but he's lost more. But like I said, it's a preference for me. I like the complete basketball player. I like the player that can do multiple things. I don't like I won't say I don't like, but the player that just wants to score and shoot the ball all the time, I'm not really a fan of that player. You know what I'm saying? Because when you only got one basketball and you got five people that's out there, and we all at some point, if you're in the NBA, you pretty much believe you can score just as well as the next person. But we all know that everybody don't have the same amount of skills. So certain people are going to get the ball more than others. But
Right.
for the most part, I mean, every NBA guy. I mean, if I wasn't when I didn't play in the NBA, when I'm playing pick up with friends, then yeah, I'm gonna feel like I'm the best on the court, and I'm gonna feel like I could do this in the NBA if I given the opportunity. But when you're playing behind Tim Hardaway, it's tough to get get court time when you're playing behind an All Star.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's always going to be opinionated. I mean, I got love for Mike and for LeBron. I treat this basketball brotherhood. I take it seriously. So to me, I don't think you can go wrong. And then you got your other ones that might say Magic was the best, or Dr. J was the best, or Bird was the best. I mean, it's all opinionated. And I think anybody that you consider the best, one thing for sure, they can play.
Yeah. For sure. I agree. So let's get right to it. Like you said, you went to East Tennessee State. That's where you went to college. Then you tell us about your college career. You got into a little bit. You went March Madness with them for there. And did you get to sniff the how well did you guys do in the tournament? Did you sniff any close? Did you have any upsets? How did
Man,
your college career go?
I mean, the college career really, led me to the opportunity to play, of course, in the NBA and overseas. And those guys that I played with, a couple of my teammates have passed away, Alvin West and Major Gear. I'm 53, so to be at this age and not have some of the guys you went through those wars with is, when I'm watching it at this point of the year, it always is very sentimental to me. And, you know, those memories that you create will always be cherished as far as I'm concerned. And, my sophomore year, I played in the NCAA tournament 3 years. My sophomore year, we won our Southern Conference championship, and we got in as a 16th seed, and we played Oklahoma, who was number one at the time, and that's when they had Mookie Blaylock and Stacey King, and I think that was kind of like the first time when I was playing against someone. I had played against Sherman Douglas from Syracuse earlier in the year, and he ended his career as like the all-time assist leader. And
Mhm.
they kicked our butts and in the Carrier Dome. They beat us by like 40, I believe. But I played well, and I was like, if this guy's going to the NBA, maybe I'll get a look because I'm younger and I played well against them. So when we fast forward to the sophomore year and we play in Oklahoma, and I know they got Mookie Blaylock, and I see how they're rating him as one of the top point guards. So I'm using that as a measuring stick. I'm like, if I can play well against him, then maybe I'll start to get some looks. And you know what? We had them. Before I think Maryland Eastern Shore knocked off UVA. We were one of the closest teams to almost knock off a number one seed. They beat us 72-71. I fouled out, and I still don't believe that was a foul to this day. Some of these plays, they stick with you all your life. But
Right.
I fouled out with like a minute and 21 seconds left, and we were actually winning when I fouled out. But then, they ended up beating us 72-71. So that was my first introduction to the NCAA tournament. And that next year, our junior year, we ended up playing Georgia Tech. That's when they had Kenny Anderson and Dennis Scott and Brian Oliver, and they beat us by like 18. But Kenny Anderson was another good guard that was going into the NBA. They was giving him rave reviews, and I played okay against them. I had like 17 points, but we lost. And then my senior year, we played Iowa, and actually we were ranked as high as number 11 in the country that year. But for some reason, they shipped us out to Minnesota and gave us a 10th seed, and so Iowa caught, and I didn't really, I didn't shoot well that game. Going into that game, I was shooting like 60% from the three and 60% from the field, and I was like 4 for 13 that game, so that dropped my percentages to like 59.7 and like 59.2, and I was little like, dang, I could have been probably one of the first players to ever shoot 60% from the three and
Mhm.
60% from the field. You know what I'm saying? You just don't hear that too much. But unfortunately, we ended up losing that game by 3. And then I leave, and then the next year they win the tournament again. Those guys that I played with, Calvin Talford, Marty Story, Greg Dennis, those guys won it again, and they played Arizona, and they upset Arizona the next year. And I always, people confuse me with being on that team, but I wasn't on that team. So they upset Arizona, and then they lost to Michigan in the Fab. Chris Webber,
The
Jawan
Fat Five, yeah.
Five. Those guys knocked them out. So yeah, I was able to, go to 3 NCAA tournaments, and like I said, it was great memories. You grow up watching those games, and you often wonder if you ever get a chance to play on it, and then next thing you know, you see yourself on ESPN, and then you make it to the NCAA tournament, which I thought was just like the most awesome time ever.
Mhm.
I didn't think anything was better than the NCAA tournament until making the NBA playoffs. Then that's when I was like, wow, this is a whole nother level of basketball. So yeah, the time at East Tennessee State was awesome. Those guys, I'm still close. We did a little movie together just talking about those times. I feel like, when you talk about mid majors, and this is opinionated once again, but when you talk about mid majors back in those days, it's the way they get love now. We definitely would have had to be probably one of the top mid major teams in the country. We won a lot of games, and we were ranked, you know, at that time, which was something to be proud of.
So, what made you decide to go there? Did you not get any offers from the big Division 1 schools? Because
Yeah, no,
East Tennessee is what, Division 2 or
nah, they're
3?
Division 1.
No, they're Division 1.
Yeah, they're Division 1, and you're right, but like I said, I'm 5'7", 5'8". You don't get wasn't a lot of people knocking down my door in high school. I was a shooting guard in high school. I didn't play the point guard until I went to college, so I was used to scoring. I think my senior year before we didn't have the 3-point line, and I averaged like 26 points a game. I scored over 1,700 points in high school without the 3-point line. So, but none of the area schools, George Mason right up the road, James Madison, Virginia Tech, Richmond, OD, none of those schools really gave me an opportunity. And East Tennessee State came in at the very end and offered me a full scholarship, and everything was, history after that.
Now, I saw you went undrafted in the '91 draft. What happened there? Who like did NBA scouts not pick you up, or why'd you
Yeah.
go undrafted?
I mean, that's like I said, Byron. That's another great question. I was a second team All American, which means you make All American teams, you're one of the best 10 to 15 players in the country. Usually, when you make those teams, you get drafted.
Yeah,
Like I said, I led the nation in assists. I shot really good. I was the best player in the country under 6 feet at the time, and I thought I was going to get drafted, but I didn't. But the Indiana Pacers wanted me to come in for a rookie free agent tryout, and I guess that's when I really realized the difference in college and the NBA. Man, it was a whole nother level. I wasn't in, and I prided myself on my conditioning. Going through college, I played a lot of minutes. I didn't think I was getting tired, but that next level of trying to make the Pacers and getting cut after the third day, it kind of made me wonder: was I really good enough? Was I ready for it? And I ended up playing my first year in Germany, and I learned more about the pro game. And then I got an opportunity to try with the Warriors, and then I made it. So I lived and I learned. I didn't have anybody to come back and tell me what to expect. Even going into college, nobody was telling me you need to do this or you need to prepare yourself like this. Everything was trial and error with me. I went through it, made mistakes, learned from the mistakes, and then you try to keep moving forward after that.
yeah. Like you said, you played for the Golden State Warriors from '92 to '95. Um, and you said you made a snippet with the playoffs there. So tell us about that experience in the playoffs. Did it feel to you like it was greater than the March Madness, or what? How did the playoffs go for you when you played in it compared to the March Madness?
I mean, well, just the big thing of your dream coming true of playing in the NBA. That was probably the biggest thrill. And then after that settles down, and then you realize you're getting paid to do something that you love to do. I mean, that was like awesome, and then when you make the NBA playoffs and you get a bonus when you finish in a top, at a higher seed. And I think that year we finished, the top 6 seeds got a bonus, 7 and 8. They didn't get a bonus. So that was just a good feeling going into the playoffs. And, just all the hoopla around the playoffs. Like I said, I was a basketball, I watched a whole lot of basketball. I watched the greats. I watched Magic and Bird and Mike and Isaiah Thomas, the Bad Boys, and I really paid attention to that. And so when you finally in that scenario and you flying to Phoenix and you get there to the airport and you starting to you got your family and your team and everybody's just getting ready for this, not no one game. College you got one and done. You
Right,
lose the wrap. NBA you got a
is the
series.
series? Yeah,
Yes. So we know if you don't win game one, hopefully game two, you'll play better. And then when you go back home, you're gonna feel good at home. But unfortunately, they Charles Barkley, you probably seen that game. He dropped 56 on us in game three. And it was just a great learning experience. It's good to be able to, when I look back on my career and I think about some of the accomplishments and the achievements, playing in the NBA playoffs is definitely, and to play, it wasn't like, of course I didn't play major minutes, but enough to get on the court, to be on the court during crunch time moments. That meant a lot to me because that's kind of how I worked as a player. I always wanted to be one of the best players on the court, so I just always, worked in that direction. So to be able to be on NBC and TNT for the playoffs was something I'll never forget. And it's just that important time of basketball. It's win or go home. You win the series, you advance, you give yourself a chance to win that NBA championship that everybody speaks highly about. And if you get knocked out, you hope you get another opportunity. And as you see with me, I never got another opportunity to play in the NBA playoffs. But I finished my career overseas and played in playoffs in probably 4 different countries. So it was definitely something that I remember.
Now, were you an everyday star for the Golden State Warriors, or were you primarily a bench player?
I came off the bench until I think my last year. Tim Hardaway blew his knee out, and then I was put into the starting lineup. So I started probably close to 25 to 30 games my last year with the Warriors, and that's definitely a good feeling. When you can start NBA in an NBA game, like I said, a lot of people's dreams don't come true, but I encourage them to keep dreaming and keep believing because I never played the game to say I hope I start in the NBA. I just want to be on the court, whether I start or not. But to be a starter, it was just something I'll never forget.
Yeah. So, like you said, you make that playoff push with those years, and then you said your last year you didn't make it. What would you say? How tough was it in that day and age when you played? How tough would you say it was just to get to the plateau you did to the playoffs? Because, like we talked about earlier, you had a who's who of names, like you said, Charles Barkley, Jordan. You had to get through Karl Malone, all of them, Olajuwon.
Yes,
I
David
mean,
Robinson. Yeah,
yeah, David
Jason Kidd.
Robinson.
It was.
I mean, how tough was it for you guys? I mean, you guys, I can't remember any names on your team except for, like you said, Hardaway. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember any names.
Well, I
And
mean,
for you
you
guys,
probably remember Chris Mullin. Chris Mullin, the little left-handed
okay, a little
shooter.
bit. Yeah, I kind
Mully
of remember
was
him.
he was
Yeah,
on the dream. He
briefly.
was on the dream team. But you're right. It was just, and that's the thing. You play in the NBA playoffs once, and then you don't get to play in it again. I know. I'm sure it's some people that didn't even get a chance to play in the NBA playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So they'll have no understanding of what I'm talking about. But that's just how. That's just, the NBA is the best league. You know what I'm saying? I was honored to be able to be a player in that league because it's where the best play. I don't think anybody that's played overseas considers themselves great unless they played in the NBA. And that's just, once again, an opinion. I'm sure some guys that didn't play in the NBA that felt like, I don't need to play in the NBA to validate my career. But us growing up over here, we know the NBA is the top basketball level. There's no level higher than that all around the world. Everybody in the world knows that. And so to be able to play in that league and then to play in the playoffs, that's, like I said, these are stories that when someone like you would like to chat with me, I'm ready to chat about some of these things because it's something that I hold dear to my heart.
Now, is there a game that you remember? I know you're short tenure, 4 years in the NBA, unfortunately, but is there a certain game that you remember that was like, oh yeah, this is where I made it big time. This is my welcome to the NBA moment. Did you have that moment besides the playoffs?
Well, actually, my rookie year, we had just we had just I just found out I made the team, and we traveled to Utah. And I remember just going on the court. So I'm walking on the court because you realize your dream has come true. And for me, it didn't hit me until we ran out on the court. And when I'm out on the court and we getting ready for layup lines, and I'm looking around at the Utah fans, and I'm like, eyes are starting to well up with tears because I'm so happy that my dream of being able to do this is true. But then I look down and I see John Stockton and Karl Malone, so I'm like, all right, you better get yourself ready because I'm a rookie. Coach Nelson is not too fond of rookies at the time, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had I had played well enough in our preseason and in our practices for him to be like, okay, I'm going to get some playing time. I just didn't know how much. So I'm sitting on the bench and he's like, Mr. Jennings. And I'm like, oh, I ripped my little pants off and I check in. And we beat Utah that night. I had 10 points and 6 assists my first NBA game. So I was feeling really good. But my moment of feeling like I belong was when we left Utah and we go on our first East Coast trip and we playing the Miami Heat. And I had like 22 points that game. And I was like 8 for 9 from the field. And after the game, you watch Sports Center and you can see Chris Mullin with his hand over my head. The little guy has a big game. And that's when I was like, wow, I'm going to have me I'm gonna make my way in this league now because I think Spud was awesome. Muggsy was my guy, but neither one of them could shoot the ball like I did. So I thought I was bringing a whole nother, different look to our offense. And the next night we played in Orlando, and I tore my ACL, first knee injury, and so I had to sit out the rest of my rookie season. So it kind of was a roller coaster of like, you made it, let's go. And then you get injured, and now you got to hope that you get back. And fortunate enough, Coach Nelson gave me the opportunity to come back, and that's when I made the playoffs that following year, and then played one more year with them before I ended up getting with the Denver Nuggets for a year, and then ended up playing overseas to finish up.
Yeah, so like you said, you end up finishing your career overseas. And since you played overseas, I got to ask you, how different is it? How different is the game play or games? Nowadays, it's hard to tell because they've matched up with US with all these players coming over here to play. But in your time, not many are like today's day and age coming into the NBA to play. So the world didn't compete like they do now.
Right.
So when you played overseas over there, how different was the play compared to the NBA that you played in the 90s?
I mean, it was funny that you asked that because when I went over probably in 98, 99, and that was like, Germany was cool. It was a good league. Just learning the pro game was, the challenge for being over there. Of course, I didn't speak the language, so that was always a challenge too. But luckily,
Right.
my coach was American, that he could make it comfortable for me, so to speak. And it was a different game over there. I remember playing against like Tony Parker before he got with the Spurs.
Right.
I played against Ginobili before he got with the Spurs. I played against Turkoglu that was at Orlando.
Right.
It was quite a Boris Diaw that played with Phoenix. I played against those guys in France. The way they were starting to improve, I had a feeling they were going to start catching up and playing, especially the ones that was coming over playing in the NBA. So
Right.
you come over here and you playing with the best players. You see our work ethic. You see what we do. Then you go back to your home country, and now you're starting to get these young men to start to believe that they can be just as good. You just got to work harder. So now to see where it is now, it doesn't surprise me because, like I said, I I saw young Tony Parker. I'm sure Tony probably remembers me. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah. Yeah.
he went on to win 4 NBA titles.
Yeah.
But I caught him as a young guy in France, and I remember chatting with him. And I was like, "Dang, Tony, he's doing this thing like that, and I'm over here like this." And I played well against him. But it was just a learning curve of, like I said, me. I felt like, and I'm not being cocky or braggadocious when I say this, but I know they haven't seen a smaller guy like me that could, the way I could shoot the ball really made you come close to me. And then I'm quick enough to get by you. You don't see too many little men with both of those qualities. Usually you see one that's really fast, so we're going to back up and make them shoot it. Or you're going to see one that can be really athletic. And, I think I was a nice little mixture of both. So my career overseas, because definitely, they hadn't seen anything like that over there. and I was successful. I was MVP in France. I was an All Star 2 times in France. I was an All Star in Spain. I was an All Star in Germany. I played in the playoffs in all of those countries. So, my overseas career was definitely fun for me.
So I know, obviously, before we get into your coaching, you never got to coach in the NBA, but if you were offered that gig, where I know you would want to take any gig in the NBA, but who would you honestly, in your opinion, where would you want to coach in the NBA? I know you would take any gig if offered, but
Right.
where would you want to coach?
I mean, I'm a hometown guy. I'm from Virginia, so I represent the Wizards. So if and it's funny too that you say that because I remember Scotty Brooks was their coach there for a little while,
Yes,
and
he was.
yeah, and I played against him when he was at the Rockets, and so I'm the type that if I let you have it, I feel like I can coach with you also. You know what I'm saying? So when I see some of these guys that I played against getting the opportunity to lead these men, I often wonder, like, if I get that chance, how can I motivate these NBA guys? And I see other guys do it, so it's something that I won't say is far fetched, but if the opportunity ever presents itself, I would be ready for it.
Now, obviously, you're coaching still now. I think, to my records, it shows you're still coaching in the women's league, right? Some
Yes, yes,
women's league.
yes.
Um, Now, how is it? How is your coach? How do you see coaching differently than what you were as a player? How do you take that differently than what you were as from a player's mindset?
I mean, I kind of keep that mindset, because the coaches that I played for, the ones that we called a player's coach, that's because we knew they played. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just felt like it was always easier to respect somebody that has really been between the lines as opposed to somebody who hasn't. If I got to listen to two coaches and the coach that's been in that situation down one with 4 seconds to go and he's made that play to make them win or lose, as opposed to a coach that hasn't been in that situation, I just think I'm gonna learn more from the one that's been more hands on. And so now that I coach women, sometimes I think me playing in the NBA probably hurts my coaching ability with them more so than it did on the men's side, because I was an assistant on the men's side for maybe like 12 years. And all those young men was probably in the office trying to figure out what I did to get into the NBA. And when I did make it, how did I stay there? And,
Right.
what did I do in college? I've been coaching girls for 5 years now, and I don't think I've had probably over 3 conversations about me playing in the NBA or playing overseas. So I think the men, it means more to them what I accomplished. On the women's side, they just want to be taught the game. And that's one good thing at Leeds McCray, that I've been given opportunities to teach and coach the basketball now. Of course, the men's game is definitely more athletic than the women's game, but I marvel at how these young women can learn different things and the work that they try to put in to help themselves get better. It's something that I like to see. And, we haven't advanced in the conference tournament like I would like us to yet. But hopefully, you keep believing. You keep believing, you recruiting the right girls, you bring in the right girls, and hopefully they understand the dedication and commitment that's needed for you to move up in the league. And, hopefully, this upcoming season, I lost 4 seniors, but I think the class that I got coming back and the recruiting class I got coming in, I think I'm finally starting to make some ground to move up. So we'll see how that turns out.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here. When you were coaching guys and to the girls now, can you name quite a bit of players that you've had that made it pro, like to the NBA/WNBA/ the minors? Any of that you've coached gone pro?
Well,
And
I
that's still
coached.
pro to this
I
day.
coached. I was at this NAIA school called Bluefield College, and that was like coaching with Richard Morgan, and we had a young man. His name was Omar. I cannot remember his last name now, but he ended up signing with my agent, and he ended up playing over in China for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really tough from and on my Division II level when I was coaching. None of the guys made it to the NBA or overseas, and I think that's just when people say they're dreaming or they want to go overseas, I don't think they realize how difficult it is, and a lot of these guys got a lot of talent, but as you said earlier, me coming from the Southern Conference, I'm not going to get the same love that somebody from Duke or North Carolina or Michigan is going to get. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
and I was at East Tennessee State, which was a Division I school. So now, if you at the Division II level, I don't think they realize how good you have to be to really get an opportunity to go to the next level. And it's not as easy as they think. And I tell the kids that all the time. I'm like, I want you to dream, and I'm not going to be the one that's going to tear your dream down. But I hope you know it's other people that's dreaming the same thing, and you know you might meet up with that person one day, and it's gonna be one of y'all. They ain't gonna take both of y'all. Are you gonna be that one to get it? Have you done enough in your career to be ready for that moment? I mean, I know when it came down to me, it happened twice. One time I was the one that got cut, and then the next time I was the one to make it. So you kind of got to be in the right place at the right time. You got to be playing very good basketball, and you got to meet a need. And a lot of times, as you know, the game is for tall people. If you 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", you're gonna get a look quicker than 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
A whole lot of those in the league right now. So I think a lot of people that come out at those sizes, I'm glad they're at least trying to take advantage of their education because that backup plan is serious.
So now I got to ask you about recruiting since you still are a college coach. Um, it's a couple part question here. How difficult is it to actually scout the talent for recruiting? And the second part is, I know you go down there as well and recruit, but do you also send your other coaches as well to recruit? Because you can't be at one place at once, so to recruit all this talent. So that's the other part of the question. How many other coaches do you send out to go with you as well? Because I know you recruit as well as you yourself.
And take me through your first question again, real quick, because I know with me, it's just only two on our staff, it's me and my assistant, and we try to cover certain areas. Like I'm from Virginia, so me coming to Virginia to do some of my recruiting or the Tennessee area, I'm very familiar with those areas. And she's from Georgia, so South Carolina, Georgia, and then we both double team North Carolina. We just try to get it done the best we can. A lot of times I'm thankful that I know a lot of people because I get emails daily about young players, which that's an easy way. That's the beauty about recruiting now. I can recruit right from my desk. I don't have to drive 3 hours to watch a young lady play because now
Right.
they're sending me their videos, and
Right.
I can tell from a video whether a girl's going to be able to play for me or not, or whether she's going to be able to play on our level or not. So, that is challenging, but at the same time, especially during this COVID era, I don't really want to put myself in danger as far as going to different gyms and not knowing what's going on there because it's a lot better now. But when we first was in the heat of the COVID, I really was doing my recruiting from the office. I really
Right.
wasn't
Right.
going out too much. So that was challenging, but it just comes down to it's so major in college that you got to be able to do a good job at it. And I know I bring girls in knowing that they can help us, but my thing is this: when you come to college, and I ain't gonna lie, I had a great time at East Tennessee State. I partied, but at the same time, basketball was my priority. I think a lot of times these young people these days basketball, they come to college and it's not the priority. It's not, can I get stronger today? It's more so like, what can I do today besides basketball? You
Right.
know, and when
Right.
you're trying to win championships, if your mentality is that, then you're probably not going to win championships, which I haven't while I've been here. But like
So,
I said, trying to change the culture is what I'm doing, and you know, I like the direction we're going in. I just would like to win more.
so let me ask you then, what do you look for then while you're recruiting? What do you look for when you're recruiting, when you're out there recruiting or scouting? What do you look for to
I
get
mean,
on?
all the needs of your team. You know, of course, like this year, I'm losing 4 seniors. So two of my captains, you know, one was a 5'7" scoring, can do it all type guard. So if I'm gonna lose a player like that, when I'm out recruiting, I want to find a player like that. You know what I'm saying? Or my other senior captain, she was about 5'9". She played inside. So, you know, of course, I want to bring in a post player that can do what she did because she had success at our level. So, you know, basically it's on need for us, unless I just happen to run across a terrific offensive player or a defensive player that can shoot. You know what I'm saying? A good friend of mine, he always told me when it comes to recruiting, if they can't shoot, don't recruit. And at first I was like, nah, I can kind of help them shooting, but you know, now that they done moved that 3-point line back, I
Yeah.
know this year I got to get, you know, more shooters that can handle that distance. You know, so yeah, this year's recruiting class, I mean, I've already got a couple of commitments that can fill those roles, but I at least hope to bring in 3 or 4 more that can help us rebounding. We got out rebounded a lot, so I definitely want to address that. And then, you know, I just feel like getting tougher will help us. You know, having girls that are ready to take charges or set good screens or be physical, those type of things. You know, we've been lacking, and I mean, I think I got the players to do it, but they just haven't grown into that yet. So hopefully, this will be, you know, the year to do it.
So a couple more questions before I let you go. I want to know, how'd you get your nickname Mister, and where'd it come from?
Well, I mean, it came from my dad. I was a big time football player when I was growing up. You know, football was my first love, and at the age of 7, when I was able to play my first little league football, you know, you have your tryouts and you meet your new teammates and everything. And while I was meeting my teammates, you know, like I said, I was faking everybody out. They were trying to tackle me. Nobody could tackle me, and everybody was like, "Oh, that guy's fast." And so we've been out there for 2 or 3 hours, and my dad was ready to go, and he was, you know, I could hear him. He was probably about 10 yards, 15 yards away, and he was yelling, "Keith, let's go." But I was ignoring him, you know, still faking out my boys, making everybody like, you know, take notice. And he was like, "Keith, let's go." And I still ignored him. And he was like, "Mr. Jennings, get over here." And they was like, "Mister? He calls you Mister?" And I was like, "Yeah, he does. He calls me Mister." And that kind of stuck. I got an older brother. His nickname is Man. So here come Mr. and Man all the time, you know. So it was, you know, a nice little, like everybody in my hometown pretty much knows me more so by Mr. I don't think anybody, I don't think anybody calls me Keith in my hometown unless they're just being a smart ass.
So since you did play in the NBA, you had those 4 good years that you would say good. I would say good, even though you would like to have been better. It was still good. Um, how many players do you still talk to from when you played? And do you get invited to any of the Golden State alumni when they do have those alumni nights at the games?
Well, you know, I just recently, you know, when you play the game of basketball and you know you have success, that's one thing I always knew. I knew that if I play well enough, good things can happen at the end of the season. And so, you know, my time at Golden State, even though it was short, you know, I did a lot of good things in the community. I won a few community service awards and things of that nature. And actually, when I was there, this just happened this past actually December, I think it was like 28th. They had got in touch with me and they wanted to fly me out because one of the ball boys, he said he had written them a letter telling them that I had made a difference in his life. And
Right.
now he's been an assistant principal. He's been working at these different schools and helping the youth. And so they flew me in to see the Denver Nuggets. They told me to pick a game out. And since I did play a year with the Denver Nuggets, it just so happens that the Warriors and the Nuggets were playing. So I told them to fly me out for that game. So they bring me out. I surprised the young man, and I did an interview with Chris Mullin, and they had told me that they got the 75th anniversary team all throughout the league. Well, each team has that, and I was a part of their 75th anniversary team,
There you
which
go.
yeah,
Congrats.
which was a awesome honor. You know what I'm saying? I never, when they were doing that, I never thought that would be a possibility, but evidently maybe that 1 year in the playoffs and playing hard and being somewhat of a fan favorite uh, made them feel good enough about that. And after reconnecting with them, I'm close to Charlotte. They told me if I ever need tickets to the Charlotte game or if I ever need anything, just to reach out to them. And I haven't had to do anything yet, but I just appreciate the gesture on their behalf.
It's always good to have a connection to MJ, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Actually, when I played out there, my two brothers, Man and my younger brother Kirk, they moved out to California and lived with me. And when I left, they stayed out there. They said they loved the Cali weather and they got
Mhm.
families out there now, grown kids. So yeah, that move to Cali for me has impacted even my family.
So I'm going to leave you off at this. It's a two-part question. I ask this to everybody. Obviously, you're coaching now, so I don't have to say if you were a coach, how would you do it or whatever. But since you are coaching now, uh, what do you tell your kids, and how do you help them along the way to get to where they want to be? Say if they want to go pro or whatever, what do you say to them? And the other part of the question is, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Define your career in one word.
I mean, well, as far as the coaching side of it goes, you know, I just try to find out how I can motivate them. A lot of times, that's just about being positive. I like to think my energy is positive. Very seldom do I come into practice negative, feeling
Mm-hmm.
down. So I'm hoping they can feel the vibe of, this is how you come to work. No matter what class you just took, whether you made an A on your test or whether you bombed it, when
Mm-hmm.
you come to basketball, let all that stuff go. And let's just get better as a basketball player and as a basketball team. Um, I do cook for my team a lot, though. I try to
There
give
you
little
go.
incentives like that.
There you go.
They always say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, I believe the same to be true about women.
There,
And
there you go.
one of my things is if you get a double double, I'll make some food for you. And I think a lot of them they really took advantage of that. So I try to you know be the be the friend, but I do let them know it's a difference between coach and the man. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? When I'm the
Right.
man talking to you, yeah, I'm gonna be asking, is your family good? How you feeling? Are you doing okay?
Right.
When I'm the coach, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that nice tone is not going to be there. And I think that's sometimes an adjustment because they can be like, "Dad, I was just in his office laughing with him, and now he's telling me to get on the line." So those two things, I think as far as coaching and teaching, I try to get their respect by what I've done. And like I said, I will never try to make a player do something that I never did. So I'm not going to put unreal goal. I'm not going to tell you to run 10 line touches in 30 seconds when I know you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a treat you like I wanted to be treated as a player. And I guess and to describe my career or my basketball in one word, I would say exciting. I think I felt like I was an exciting player. I threw a lot of alley oops. I shot the three, which I think a lot of fans feel like that's an important part of the game. Um, I've been through the ups and downs, and I've always kept my head up. And like I said, I tell young people and older people, dream big and
Yeah.
have more than one dream. Because if your first dream don't come true, don't stop there, because if you stop there, then that's those people that are like, well, I'm just gonna get through the day, and you know, I don't want anything better than this. This is as good as it's gonna get. If you thinking like that, then you're gonna miss out on a lot of like simple blessings of just waking up. There's just a lot of things you can think of, I believe. So, I encourage people to dream big and to have more than one dream. And if the first one doesn't work out, then go attack the second one. Don't be that woe is me, because as you know, a lot of just when you think you got it bad, I'm sure you can think of somebody that has it worse.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, again, thank you again. I appreciate it. I couldn't have said it any better. I'm going to stay in touch with you.
Appreciate it. I
Feel
do look
free to
forward to it.
definitely feel free to come on as many times as you want. Once
Okay.
we're done here, I'll send you the copy of the episode. Share as much as you
I
can,
sure
or
will.
have your daughter do it since you don't know how to do it. I
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
I'm one. I hate social media myself, so you're not
Right.
the only one. I don't like it, but I need it for this podcast anyway.
Right.
So I feel you on that one.
Got you.
But I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you. If you know anybody, I'm always looking for interviews.
Okay.
If you know anybody, send them my way. You have
Okay.
my Twitter. You have my information. So I appreciate it. It was fun. I'll send you the episode. So this concludes episode number 87 with Mr. Jennings. There you
Hey,
go. I
and,
said
and
it.
I've done a couple other podcasts, and I would like to flip the script. Maybe one day you can let me interview you. Let me pick your brain about what you do and what you like and not like. I've done
Hey,
that with another friend of mine, and
you can make
it's
that happen.
interesting to see what the interviewer likes. So I
You
like
just
I
gotta
like doing that.
you just gotta get that podcast going.
I know, right? Don't be
Find
surprised.
the
Don't be
time. Find the
surprised.
time.
Yep. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No problem. This concludes episode number 87. Find us on YouTube at Coffee Time with Byron. Also on Instagram, Twitter, also Coffee Time with Byron as well. Available next day on all podcasting apps, Google, Spotify, you name it, all of them, iHeart, iTunes, you name it, all of them. Anything else you would like to add? Any place, anything you would like to say to anybody out there, or who you want to follow you?
No,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, no, I mean, just you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Jennings 2. Like I said, enjoy your life, man. Nobody's perfect. As long as you believe in yourself and you try to make the right moves for yourself, I just think that's the right way to go. But you only get one life, to my knowledge,
Yep.
so you better make the most of it, and you can do that by believing. God has given me a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to try to see this world become a better place, because what we living in right now, it's like every day you walk out of the house, something else is happening.
Exactly.
And I got grown young people that I want to see have success in life. So I'm gonna keep being positive, man. Just try being nice to some people, and see where that gets you.
Exactly. I couldn't have said any more.
Yeah.
But thank you again. I appreciate it. And I'll definitely text you after this, and I'll send you the episode. It was
Thank
fun.
you, sir. Appreciate
Stay
it.
safe. Be
Have a
safe
good one.
out there, and have a good night. And go win some games. Go win some tournament. I know you can.
I believe it. Thank you. It's coming. I can feel it. It's coming.
It's coming. All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, this concludes episode number 87. You all have a good night. Stay safe. I don't know when I'll be on next. I'm